as Yvette will tell you, that's going to always be program based. We had a conversation about that this morning while we were literally on a call and both working out at the same time, right? But that is the reason that the program aspect is important, as Yvette has probably told many of you millions of times, is because everything is based on the program. And programs basically say that it shows you're answering a problem. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, whenever there's a problem, whenever there are problems, we have to build programs around answering that problem, right? You know what I mean? It's just like any program that's going to be associated with the Americans with Disabilities Act, or any program that is going to be tied to justice involved citizens, or programs that are tied to Department of Defense. You know what I mean? When we say programs, think about what a program means. A program is an initiative that is tied. It's going to be any initiative that's based on solving a problem. So, for example, what are some program-based problems with veterans? Think about military sexual trauma. It affects all veterans, male and female. However, most commonly with females in the military. Think about TBI, traumatic brain injury. Think about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Think about and just think about all of the various things that causes transitional issues. For example, I tell people all the time, sometimes you have veterans who just deal with chronic homelessness. Chronic homelessness, nothing's wrong with them. No issues. The only issue is that they are a person who got out of the military with beautiful credentials. They're just like me and you, but for whatever reason, they just cannot catch a break in life. So they fall on hard times, and they remain in these chronic hardship situations. There are even programs based around that as well. So that being said, whenever you have a program-based facility and you show the intent to scale, there are pathways for you to also be a part of the procurement pipeline. What is procurement? That is the system by which government contracts are created.
Okay. You said a whole mouthful.
I know, right?
They're like, what? I hope you guys have something to write on and to write with, or you're going to come back and view this video, because there's a lot of nuggets that Derrick has just shared with you all, and that's something you're going to need to know. Right. So, Derrick, you mentioned, you mentioned these programs, and I'm going to talk about how that looks as well with homeless veterans housing, because people ask us, they tell us, they don't ask, they tell us, I want to do veterans housing. I'm like, that just it takes the wind out of me, because there's so much to unpack when we're talking about veterans housing. Because if you don't have the right structure, the right structure to have your programs run your veterans housing model, then you have nothing. Before you came on, I was just talking about watching various paying for and attending various master classes of these gurus in the community who are doing housing, co-living, independent housing, shared housing, and they got to find all those people. They got to keep going. But what Derrick and I do, and how we consult and mastermind, train individuals who are interested in this veterans housing, is through education and knowledge. I'm going to show the people something, and I show them this every single day, because everybody who says, Yvette, I want to do veterans housing. First of all, you guys got to get this book. Because I don't just talk to people just to be talking to people. You got to go get Innovative Housing Solutions, a guide to veterans shared living models. So this book is your first step to understanding veterans housing, shared living models, whether that's transitional or permanent, because you can't have shared living models for veterans to live there until they expire. You've got senior veterans, you've got disabled veterans. They don't have families, so where are they going to live? But then who's going to be paying for this? You know, if you're going to try and say, well, I'm going to have them pay because they get money every month. Okay, that's good. That's your model. But what we're talking about here is your model being aligned with government funding. That's the difference.
That's right. That's I think got some questions too.
Right. Hold on. Let's see. Let's show this $900 million outside of the how much billions, Derrick?
Outside of the 5.44, so it was 3.2 billion, right? That's the initial SSVF budget. Then it's 5.4 billion for the VA modernization budget. Now here's how that's relevant, because that 5.4 billion that goes to VA modernization. Someone asked a question in the chat about AI.
Okay, right? Wait, let me come back. Let me pull it up on here. This one right here.
Yes. Bradley Pump. Do you think AI can reshape the entire housing system for veterans? Well, yes and no. Think about this. What AI does, it's being integrated. AI is being integrated to help shape the evaluation criteria and compliance metrics by which the programs are implemented. So it's not going to actually reshape the housing system. It's just going to modernize. It's going to modernize the way we're able to obtain resources for the housing systems. And it's also going to it's going to add more convenience factors with regard to the metrics by which the compliance standards are shaped and implemented, if that makes sense. Bradley, let me know if you need me to expound on that a bit more, because I'm learning that some of these words like compliance and metrics and things like that goes over people's heads. I'm a former contracting and procurement officer, so I'm just speaking my language. But if I need to break that down into layman's terms, let me know.
Right. Okay. Let me add the resource side to that, because you alluded to it. It's speeding up how veterans access resources, because veterans don't know. We don't know what we have access to until we know what's out there. But how do you find those resources? And he wanted to know, do you think AI can reshape the entire housing system for veterans? So how let me get this book, because I have a whole library of books for the veterans community. And before AI, Derrick, I was doing this, finding resources for homeless veterans outside of HUD-VASH and within the SSVF foundational financial landscape, because veterans don't know about these SSVF organizations and about the funding that they have access to, because the social workers send them right back out the door with their black plastic bags because they're homeless. So they're not putting them in touch with all the resources that they have access to. And because I was putting them in touch with those resources for over 20 years, when AI came on the scene, I went national with helping veterans find housing incorporating AI. I helped a homeless veteran in Hawaii find housing with the resources I sent her. And that's in this book. And that teaches the community how to do the same thing. And veterans. So veteran, I'm not expecting a homeless veteran to buy a book, but if you have a homeless veteran in your family or in your community, in your church, in your wherever, you get this book and you learn how to access whatever, because we got so many benefits. I'm just floored every time I pull up some for Las Vegas, for South Carolina, everywhere. And this teaches you how to do it. So with those resources, that equates to the money that Derrick is talking about. That's that money to be used.
That's right.
Who else do we have? Go ahead. Question.
How do you see this project evolving over the next few years?
I don't know what project he's talking about, but we can.
Clive, if you're still on the line, can you rephrase that question, please?
Thank you. And then we have what feedback have you received from veterans after reading this guide? Okay, I can answer that. And this is a guide to veterans shared living models. I have a group right now. I think it's Derrick. I don't want to say 91, but I think it's 91.
Yeah.
So and those are just the ones who follow directions, because everybody who buy any of my books, they are invited to a private group. And in my private group, I've received several positive remarks. And 2 of the women have already started the process of opening their veteran shared model home.
Right now, and that when I'm now in Danny's question, he said, "What feedback have you received from veterans?" Also too, right? So here's the question: if Danny is still on the line, I want to make sure that he understands that the book is for people who want to provide, they want to provide shelter or supportive services for veterans. So I think that question, Danny, I think a better question to ask would be, what feedback have you received from those who have read the book and they want to build a veteran community? Or, when we say community, that could be one house, it could be 10 houses. Community meaning basically they want to build something to help house homeless vets, right? So I think the question would be directed towards the people who need the book, so that they can provide, so that they can help solve the problem for the veterans, as opposed to the veterans themselves. Now, if it's a veteran-owned business that wants to provide housing for veterans, then I think that would make the question more relevant to the actual book. Am I correct, Yvette?
Yes. Okay. So we've got some people over here on TikTok. Caitlin is watching us on TikTok. Hey, Caitlin. And Caitlin was one of our clients for the hotel build out for veterans shared housing, transitional housing, to come and engage in the program, whatever program that's set up to receive those federal funds, to not only pay for that veteran to live there, but also pay those programmers who are offering those programs of what job they could be. Let me get the list. Hold on a second, because I can't remember everything. That's why I print stuff out. I'm old school like that. So this money, this is $818 million in grants. Right here, $818 million in grants that has been awarded to 235 organizations across the country. to help veterans who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. So it says it right here, clear as day. Let me go back. VA awards grants based on a number of factors, and this is where the money is, including the grant recipient's experience and past performance. So it's not going to be, I'm going to do veteran shared housing and I want my grant money right away. Past performance. Okay, so we help you through all of that to earn that past performance knowledge. Okay, hold on. Let me finish.
Yeah, I want to speak to that when you come back to that one.
Okay, write it down so you won't forget. In providing supportive services to veteran families and the need in the area or community where the program will be based throughout the fiscal year for 2026. The grants will fund the local organizations as they help veterans access housing. So if you have housing and these program organizations or these grant recipients here need your housing to house the veterans that they've received the grant for, then who else is getting paid? Who else is getting paid?
Right.
You as the housing provider. Now, what else do they look for? What else does this grant money pay for? It pays for housing and housing counseling. So while you're providing this temporary based housing, you can also provide a housing counseling program. Because what we want to see when we consult with our clients who have this pre-knowledge, then you can help them buy a house, help them understand the steps to buying a house. That's this book right here. This money also covers healthcare, financial planning services, childcare, legal assistance, and transportation. These are all programs tied to housing. And then, I'm only going to take another 30 seconds. And then the government said, oh, that's not enough. We want to provide an additional 176 organizations because the need is out there for housing and for these programs. Well, then they granted an additional $84 million. That's this money right here that people don't know about because all they say is, I want to do veterans housing. Go ahead, Derrick.
That's good. Yeah. And now that, so look, what's funny is I do remember exactly what I wanted to say, but you dropped so many gems. And I want to speak to all of those. But I'll go back to the past performance piece. So a lot of people, when you say past performance, right, a lot of people think that that's going to automatically disqualify them. Now, for those watching, past performance, that actually originates from the procurement side. So think about if you're going after a government contract, right, whether it's in housing, logistics, anything. One of the things that the gatekeepers or us, procurement officers and contracting officers, look for is past performance. Now, it's interesting, they use that same lingo as Yvette was reading about, as she was reading about the grant per diem, basically for those who want to receive the grants, right? That's basically what they're saying is that money is not going to just automatically go to someone who jumps up one morning and say, oh, I see a new money grab, so I want to house homeless vets. The reason why they want to see past performance is because that shows that you have some type of equity, skin in the game. It shows you have that you have some type of reputation of already doing this. You have basically it shows you're already, what's a good way to put this? That shows that you already have some type of insight, some type of experience that shows that you are vested in this. you actually care about this. You are an actual problem solver, and you're not just coming into this as some type of sophisticated hustler who knows all of the right things to say, but you don't really have anything backing it. You don't have any type of equity to actually back it up, right? The reason this is important to us is because we're both veterans. Yvette's a veteran, I'm a veteran. And we have both been through the ups and downs, the hardships, to the point where we needed these programs. So,
yes.
Past performance can be communicated so many different ways, right? Just because you don't have past performance yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're disqualified. That's where people like Yvette and myself comes in. Those are the people who can actually function as your experience mechanism. So I can speak to this from the standpoint of being a former contracting and procurement officer, right? Past performance could be that you have experience doing this successfully, or you've decided to be intelligent enough to partner up with someone who already understands the compliance metrics by which these programs are awarded. That also counts as past performance. It's all about having someone on your team or someone within your organization who understands how to set the compliance metrics and answer incidentals when they happen. Mm-hmm. That's why they say past performance. They want to understand that the people you have in place doing this, whether that's you or someone on your team, they're experienced enough to understand government programs, whether that be SSVF, procurement, contracting, all of those things that will qualify you to understand how incidentals need to be answered. That means that, once again, that could be you, someone in your organization, or anyone who already understands the project management, program management, or consulting aspect of how this game goes.
Yeah, because nobody can do this by themselves. Nobody. Nobody has all the right pieces. You're going to need, when you look at government contracts, when you not the contracts, but the solicitations, what are they called, Derrick?
That's it. Solicitations, it could be an RFP, request for proposal, could be an ITB, invitation to bid. They come in many different ways. Could be an RFI, request for information, sources sought. All of the different ways all of the different methods. By the way, these are procurement terms we're talking about now. All of the different solicitations that the government published to see who's out there to answer these problems.
Right. So, and when you look at those solicitations and all those other three-letter
acronyms, those acronyms.
Thank you. To invite a business to complete the paperwork, you're going to see that you're going to need this person with this profession, this person with this profession. I mean, I was on three sources sought, and it was like 5 people on that sources sought. Nobody could do what I do. I couldn't do what they do. So not one person can do veterans housing. You're going to need experts in the fields that are on this sources sought or RFQ or everything else.
And that's what I'll tell you. I don't know how many emails I've received, whether it's the government contracting side or the housing homeless veteran side. Right? I don't know how many emails I get with people attempting to do this as a one-man, one-woman show. Look, a lot of times I'm straightforward, but a lot of times I have to tell them that you do understand you're going to need a team. You're going to need, because you have to think about this. You're not going to, you can't You can't be the person, you can't be the person who handles every aspect of every incidental.
Right.
You know what I mean? You want to have you need somebody who understands how to set up the compliance systems, how to set up policies, right? Because that's the language of the government, policies. Well, how do you set up policies? How if I want to house homeless veterans, how do I set up policies?
Exactly.
Well, I'll give you a quick little gem. I tell people this all the time. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is ask myself, what is it I want to do? What program do I want to answer? Going back to that word, right? Let's say if I want to house veterans with traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, what differentiator that I have in my business? What is it about me that stands out from everyone else that wants to do that? Right. Well, I'm going to find a way to talk about that in writing. Now I'm going to tie that into my understanding of people with traumatic brain injury, their needs, and then we're going to need to take all of that and find a way to bridge that with the regulations, the VA regulations, your CFRs, the USC, all of the different governing bodies. When we say governing bodies, we're talking about the regulations. We're talking about the compliance metrics. That means the CFRs, Code of Federal Regulations, USD, United States Code, the VA regulations, right? We need something in our organization that speaks to those various governing bodies with regard to how they manage SSVF programs, how they implement those programs. So we're drawing a bridge between those regulations and the uniqueness of what we do and which veteran problem we want to answer. Now, that sounds like a whole lot, right? That's why you need a team.
Yeah. Derrick, what's your email address?
It's derrick.green@skyprojectmanagement.com.
You should have been typing this, and that's a long name. Hold on. Hold on.
It's just how it sounds. Skyprojectmanagement.com. That's the good thing about it.
I know, but it's a lot of keystrokes.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. So now here's in terms of another thing I wanted to add. Right. It's interesting. I had a conversation with someone a few days ago, and I always tell them, "What is your venture capital plan?"
Ooh, now you're getting down to the meat and potatoes.
And people don't understand why I ask this question. Why? Well, I was a procurement officer. I was an insider. I was a gatekeeper. The reason is important.
I know why you asked that question, because it's the same reason why some veterans ask me why you want to know. They think we're being nosy about what they're working with. And we have nothing to share. Go ahead.
Yep, because capital equals capacity.
Keep talking.
If you have no capital, you have no capacity. So the reason why I always tell folks, okay, it's good that you have great intentions, it's good that you have knowledge, but the reason you want some type of venture capital plan in place is because there is going to be a period where you need to float some capital as you are ramping up your program. Also, let's say you want to transition from being a traditional SSVF facility to being a contract holder. Well, guess what?
Yes.
Guess what those procurement officers are going to ask for? There's a partner process that we call gate check. This is when we're shaping the evaluation criteria and setting the competitive range. We will need to know that you actually you either have the capital or capacity to pull this off, or you can get some type of banking letter, some type of letter from a reputable financial institution that shows that you have the ability to go and get the capital or the capacity. We need to see some kind of proof that you have the capacity to pull this off.
Yes.
And 5 people with good ideas does not equate to capacity.
Oh yeah, we had a one. Oh my goodness, this was when we had first gotten started in consulting. Just because the person told us they want to do veterans housing. Mm-hmm. And we were on the phone. Remember in those early days? Yes. And we were on the phone just listening to people wanting to do veterans housing, but had no framework, no knowledge, except that we have some doors that we want to open. And it was exhausting. And then want to know how we can help them get some money, how we can help some other ones acquire the property. Well, I want to speak to that. We are not in the position of starting your business for you. When you come to us, if you have no knowledge, first of all, I want you to go and buy some books. And Derrick's book will be out in December.
Yes.
December 2025. Okay. So you get these for your programming and knowledge of, and information for the community. And then when you have a conversation with us, then we can speak with you more on an equalized level, not the whole level, but you know what I'm saying. You read a book or two or three.
You're positioned to ask better questions.
Exactly. More intelligent questions. Because I can't do any. And I tell my followers don't call me, because if you haven't read anything that I teach, then we have nothing to talk about. I don't want to know what you know right now. I want what you know in alignment with what I know. And then we can have a conversation on where you want to go and how we can get you there with these contracts with Derrick. I'm your first stop. Derrick, he can't take you to get these contracts without having your program set up. You don't know how to set up a program. Where you gonna go?
That's right.
Where?
Am I pointing? Yeah, that's right. Am I pointing at you right now? Am I pointing at you? I know sometimes.
No, the other way. The other way. I'm pointing like so that way. Yes, now we're pointing at each other.
That's right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we're the yin to the yang, each other's yin and yang. You want to do veterans housing? You know, it's one simple way that you can do veterans housing without having programs. And you can utilize a federal program, which is Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher. This is the one for Chicago. So that's simple. You don't need Derrick. You just get with me and we go over this and you rent your place to a veteran who has a Section 8 voucher as an investor. Yeah. But if you want to do veterans housing as a program, then you need Derrick too. You're going to need me, and then you're going to need Dad. Which way? That way. Then you're going to need Derrick.
Yes. Okay? Yes. I'm at your left shoulder. Yep.
Okay, got it. My right. You got it.
I think if they have it reversed, I guess, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, for our words to be right.
I see. You
gotta get your banner. You gotta get your banner, baby.
I actually have. I got my banner on my YouTube page, and I have my logo. I don't have it. I just didn't put it in the
I'm saying for your back wall. You see all of these back here. Put up your accolades. Put up your accolades.
I know, right? I'm old school. I just talk, but I did need to put everything up. I did need to put it up.
Yeah,
I sure will.
What this is right here, that's the picture of me when I was in the military with my buddies. This is a yard sign. So those companies that make the yard signs that you see on the side of the road, contact them. This guy who makes all of my signs, $15. Probably could get it cheaper, but I know him and I trust him. So get that, decorate that back. And I like that new logo you have. Come on. You inspired me to do my logo over.
I love it. I love it. It speaks to the people we serve. I love it. I love it. Yes. I love it. Yep. I love it. To me, that is way better than a lot of the ideas I see people come up with, because you want to speak to the people you serve. We serve the government so that they can serve our fellow veterans,
Exactly. So we talk about so much. What are some things that you'd like to share about your, let's talk about our backgrounds and how we got here. Because we just didn't pop up on the scene as these well-educated, informed, and intelligent professionals talking about homeless veterans. Who does that?
Right.
So how did you get here?
Ooh, well, if we want to talk about the homeless veteran side, I was a homeless veteran at one point. In fact, a full-time single dad at the same time. When I was a homeless veteran, and so, I never forget, what was interesting about it is I went through surgery after having already served in the executive channels in federal procurement and acquisitions. For those who don't know, in the federal government, acquisitions and procurement, the word is used interchangeably. Usually in the federal government, they say acquisitions. When you hear procurement, it's typically talking about contracting for city and municipalities and state. Federal government, you're going to hear the term acquisitions more than procurement. But I digress. So anyway, I went through a very complicated neurosurgery that was tied to a wartime injury. Fell down during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Years I didn't realize that I had a slow injury that was exasperating over the years. Long story short, had to have surgery. The recovery period was longer than 12 months, which meant the federal government could not cover me with reasonable accommodation. So lost my job. Had to resign had to use a medical resignation. Which was good because I had an outstanding rating. Now, up until that time, I had served as a procurement and contracting officer. For people who do not understand what that means, basically the gatekeeper of government contracts, meaning the people who who create the evaluation criteria by which contracts are awarded and set the competitive range, ultimately deciding who gets awarded contracts and who gets their loser letter, right? So, But anyway, that being said, after doing that, being very comfortable in that role for many years, I found myself homeless. I then had to learn all of those same SSVF channels, those supportive systems and services that Yvette is here talking about. And guess what? After Yvette and I met, that was the thing that triggered me to take my procurement knowledge and learn how to tie it in to the supportive services for veteran families knowledge. Now, look, I had already worked at the VA, so it's funny. I had a lot of hands-on experience. I just did not understand how to frame that in a way to help others do it. And Yvette was the person who taught me how to do that, because as a former contracting officer, I already knew and understood how to help people get contracts. In fact, I was on the contracting team in New Orleans under VA Vision number 16, which actually created a contract opportunity for the Veteran Community Bastion. It's a 58 apartment unit community in New Orleans, and we were actually part of that team. But what I did not do, I was not the person who helped set up the actual SSVF portion. That was done before they got to us. They had to have that up and running before they came to the procurement and contracting team. And the way they got that up and running was talking to those Yvettes out there.
Exactly.
So before they could even get to us, that had to already be functional. And then once that was functional, they showed how it catered to various aspects of homeless veteran needs. Then we were able to say, okay, well, you know what? We can put this project in the procurement pipeline. So that was the trajectory that caused me to be in alignment to where I'm currently sitting today talking with Yvette about not only housing homeless veterans, but helping people like you all, listeners, create a business around your passion, which is to house our fellow veterans.
Exactly. The first step is in this process is knowledge. You cannot jump over anything to jump to the money without prior knowledge. And how I got here, I was a homeless female veteran after serving in boot camp. I experienced military sexual trauma by the hands of my drill sergeant. I mean, and there was nowhere for me to go. Even when they discharged me, I still had a waiting period and I had nowhere to go. So it continued. So imagine that being on a young person's mind from that time at 19 to now 60. That will never go away. That has created the worst PTSD that I can imagine, but it is my power. It is my superpower. So after leaving the military, my father passed away and my mother moved, leaving me and my younger sister to fend for ourselves. And our older, and no shade or shame on them, because people are people. They don't really know how to help until they get the education and the knowledge. So I married young, very young. I married a Marine, a then actively serving Marine. And he was very, very abusive. So where do I go? And I'm a veteran and I have no family that I can turn to, because they're like, well, you decided to marry him. You keep going back. Well, I kept going back because I had nowhere else to go. Whenever I was, yeah. And there were no shared living models that I knew of in the veterans community. I would go to the VA and talk to social workers and case managers, nurses and doctors, everyone I could, because I'm looking for help. I even put police order protection and said, look, he shouldn't be able to come back. I'm not safe in my own home. Who was going to be arrested when I defended myself? Me, I don't want to go. Look, so it just kept progressing year after year after year. And I found myself sleeping in places where people shouldn't even have to sleep. On the buses up and down when I didn't have a car. In my car when I had a car. And it finally ended when I graduated from college, from Columbia College here in Chicago, and got a job working for the city of Chicago in the Department of Revenue. Get this, Derrick, licensing. And they put me over a license category called SRO, single room occupancy. And I said, if I had known about single room occupancies and the 2 part-time jobs that I had before and after school, I could have paid $350 a month. So that stayed in my head all those years, shared living. That's, part of this model, because I did house a lot of homeless veterans in those SROs after I left the city of Chicago. And when I got into housing. And when I went to, I got my first apartment out of homelessness, studio apartment. while working for the city. And 4 years later, I was able to buy my own home, but not using a VA loan, but just moving up in life as a civilian, because the VA, they would never help me. I'm like, nobody. I wasn't service connected. That's why I had no money. You know, and people don't understand that too. When you're service connected at a percentage, at 100%, oh, you don't have to be homeless unless you choose to be. And I had 0. So when I became a realtor, I learned, and by default, I didn't say, well, I'm going to house homeless veterans because I'm a realtor. I didn't even know there were homeless veterans. Not until I started housing homeless people. And I was managing 633 units at the time when I met this community of homeless veterans.
And think about that.
And that is right. And that investor, guess what I did for that investor? I brought programs to the buildings. And that investor to this day still has programs in his buildings where the programs are filling up those units. So that's how I got here. And then years later, after COVID, I had COVID really, really, really bad. And I ended up in the hospital having a near-death experience, waking up to a doctor standing over me, praying for me, who happened to be a former homeless veteran who I housed 10 years prior. So God woke me up back to my reality of, you're not done, daughter. And this, what we're doing, and it's shown to me every single day, because so much help is needed in our communities, that it is so much bigger than us. It's so housing homeless veterans and programs is so much bigger than me. Putting people in contracts with these programs and housing is so much bigger than Derrick. We need all of you. You have any interest in housing homeless veterans, if you are an investor, we need to talk to you. So we're not just going to get you on the phone and start talking, but there's a protocol that we have.
And can I, you know, I just came from a cohort in Omaha, Nebraska, which of course is where Warren Buffett is from. We had it was an amazing thing. Dr. Myron Golden was there. And there were a lot of it, which means there were a lot of investors there. And they had a chance to understand. First and foremost, a lot of investors don't even know that this is out. But when I say investors, I'm speaking specifically about institutional investors, because let me tell you something. There are a lot of shade tree investors out there. People who just have some money and they want to operate like a hard money person. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's the wrong mindset. Here's why I want to elaborate on this investor piece, because your smart, accredited, and institutional investors, there's always a need for you, the institutional investors. There's always a need for you to put your assets, to put your capital into something that has low volatility, into a vehicle with low volatility. Well, what makes more sense than putting it into something like this, where your capital, your ROI is protected by pre-allocated funding? Yvette just spent about 10, 15, 20 minutes showing you all of the different sources where funding is coming from. That means this is not speculative. It's not based on market trends. The money is already here to do it, which means when you invest in it, the money's going to come and you're going to see exactly what your dividends are going to be. You're going to see exactly what your ROI is going to be based on the programs you want to serve. So this is the smartest play, because it's not based on market trends. It's not based on anything speculative. And guess what? 80 to 90% of investors fail, by the way. 80 to 90%. Now, my bet would be most of those are hard money people, because I say it all the time. Hard money people, those are the least intelligent investors out there. And here's why. because they basically take money and just throw it at things. They throw it at trend, what they believe to be the next trend. They, instead of understanding the importance of investing in the people, investing in the knowledge so that you can actually retain talent around that investment. And what better way to invest in something where the talent is already there to show you exactly how to do it and teach you everything you need to know so that it can be successful. People say, well, is it guaranteed? Yes, it's guaranteed as long as you follow the steps, because there's always a need. Yvette just gave you her story. Imagine that there are hundreds of thousands of more people who wind up in that same situation, just many different ways. That's why the country has set aside billions of dollars to serve this initiative. And to be honest with you, when the federal government create initiatives like this, they're actually hoping that investors are on the front line. Why? Because investors bring capacity. They bring capacity. Now, those investors bring that capacity. All they need to do is tie with the compliance experts, such as the Yvette. I was about to say one Yvette. I was about to say one of your last names. Do I say Jones or Swanson? But as far as the Yvettes, then the Yvettes, and then the Derricks in terms of the contracting side. Once you've talked to the Yvettes, right? So, I get it. Look, everyone does not necessarily have to be an investor, as long as you understand that there is still going to be some type of an investment required. But if you are an investor or you're connected to investors, you should be running to the front lines, especially what the country's going through right now, not knowing what things are going to be, because this is the one thing that's already funded, and they just made sure that it's funded through the next several years.
Yes. And people ask me all the time, what's going to happen because of this new administration? And I have to always go back to, 2000. I got my license in 1996. I started housing homeless veterans in 2004. And then it's been straight up rocket ship from 2007 and still to this day. I have not seen any administration stop veterans homeless housing. In 2007, and then that's when everybody was coming, because in 2008, that's when the homeless veterans housing bill was passed. It was it came back to life, put it that way, by former President Barack Obama. And when that housing bill was reenacted, literally thousands of veterans started swarming into the VA. I don't know how they got word that we have money for you to move somewhere, and you don't have to pay it. Just come on in and let us get you moved. And that's why I wrote this book, Housing Solutions for Homeless Veterans. This book I wrote specifically because during that time, I had to train social workers, case managers, human care professionals, because think about it, they weren't realtors. Some of those social workers at Jesse Brown VA and Hines VA, they hadn't bought a house in over 30 years. Some of them had never rented an apartment. When they graduated, they went back home to their mom and dad. They hadn't even experienced renting anything. So as a veteran and who was homeless, and as a realtor who had already been housing homeless people years before I came on the scene, I'm like, wait, y'all don't know what you're doing. So come on in the room. Come on in the room. And I started training them. And go ahead.
I was going to say, can we tell them why it's always a need?
Why is always a need for what?
Can we tell them why there's always going to be money for this? Why I'll say why it's always a need to do this, and why there's always money for it?
Oh,
I can tell them.
Go ahead, because we can piggyback.
I wanted to catch you before you changed a couple of points.
Okay.
People say, is it guaranteed, or can I do this, or can it be done, or will there be money? Will there be money for us to come and do it? The answer is yes. To add to what Yvette just said about President Obama's initial order to start to revise these homeless
Yes.
veteran programs, because they used to be there. It just took him to revise it, right? But here's why there will always be money to do it. It's very simple. It incentivizes people to join our military. Y'all see how that works?
Benefits.
Yeah, y'all see how that works? And we want, and I think about, if something like this went away, the last thing the administration wants on their hands is an unmotivated military. Yeah. There is no president powerful enough to override an unmotivated military. What is going to do? Fire everybody? Okay, now what's going to be his backbone? The military is literally the only thing that makes them powerful. And the only way the military is incentivized is knowing that they have these programs available when they become veterans. That's why there will always be money to do this, because it incentivizes the strength of our military to know that they have something to back them up if they fail, or if they fall on hard times when they get out.
Hold on, let me make a point to that, because it does sound real good. And I don't want people thinking that it's going to be easy without your help. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. It's an easier process if you all say you want to do veterans homeless housing and you learn the programs to do it, to supply those housing needs in our community. That's what make our job easy, is by educating, consulting, and training you. That's the easy part, as long as you come aboard. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the hard part is this: because we don't have you, we have homeless veterans. Mm-hmm. We have the money is in our communities, but we don't have mm-hmm. you. Now, what do I mean by that? We have what's called a program called Section 8. Everybody's heard of Section 8. Well, this is the Housing Choice Voucher. And for those homeless veterans who qualify for this voucher, their rent is paid, sometimes at 100%. Other times, if they have an income, then there's a percentage that they're responsible for paying every month, called a tenant portion. Now, the problem with this is we don't have you, and we have homeless veterans in our community holding this voucher, being told no, that they can't mm-hmm. live in other people's properties because they've got to do a credit check and a background check, an eviction check. Oh, and they want to talk to your last landlord. Well, I mm-hmm. have a homeless veteran right now in Charlottesville, Virginia, with a 2-bedroom voucher that's $1,901 a month. That will be mm-hmm. paid directly to the investor. But we don't have you. She's been holding this voucher since April of 2025. Mm. This is now November. Her and her caregiver are living in a tent on the side of a fucking creek outside, holding this voucher. Hmm. So the programs are out there, but you're not. You're not opening your doors. You're not learning how to utilize this program money, the voucher money, the $900 million money, the $4.2 billion money. You mm-hmm. want to play patty cake with veterans housing, and it's not a game. I've been telling realtors, and look, Derrick, I got a President's Award by the Main Street Organization of Realtors. I'm a realtor. Mm-hmm. I've been housing homeless veterans for over 22 years, getting a commission. Mm-hmm. Homeless veterans housing is real estate, but we don't have you. We don't have the investors. We don't have the knowledgeable realtors. We don't have those investors who say, I want to learn this program, because we can't give you our information by osmosis. You have to learn to do what we do. Buy the book, get the coaching, buy the master classes when we release those, and get on board.
Yeah,